The NBA schedule is out. The Boston Celtics, what's their toughest stretch? What do you need to look out for? When will you get to see Marcus Smart back in Boston? All that good stuff. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here in the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. But I'm only here for you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next few weeks. Then, after a brief look at the schedule, I'm going to be here for like 7 days a week, a lot, when the season kicks in, because I'm going to be doing post-game podcasts. So tons and tons and tons of podcasting right here in the Locked On Podcast Network coming up for you all season long. So make sure you're subscribed. Open up your favorite podcasting app, subscribe, watch the show on YouTube, ring the bell, get notified when the video drops, hop into the comment section, all that great stuff. I'm John Karalis. I used to play once upon a time. Now I'm covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Today is all about the schedule, all about looking ahead to this season and starting to worry about stretches in March while we're in August. We're going to have some fun with it. And we're going to do that with our good friend, Tom_NBA, otherwise known as Tom Westerholm. How you doing, Tom?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm great. And I can just sense your excitement about this schedule release, just oozing. I feel it pouring through the camera.
Yeah, man. I get really excited to look at games that are going to happen every year. Every year there's games. I like, and then
big if true.
We talk about the games. There's a schedule every year. Like they plan these games in advance and then they release those. And then, it's August. So we talk about it
in great detail.
Like, I don't know, man. Like I promised you before the pod that I wouldn't go too in depth.
I know. And I poked you right away.
You did.
You about it right away.
So just to get it out of the way, I always like, this is, I think, the silliest of like the off season news cycles, because like, there's going to be games March.
Yeah.
Some in February.
Everybody likes the old Larry Bird joke.
Some in January too. Like there's games coming up. And so everybody, I'm sure will remember every single date on the calendar that we talk about here.
Hey, look, I know it's the Larry Bird joke. 41 home, 41 away. Good. We're good. That is
me and Larry. Really
I've always said you and Larry Bird, very, very similar people.
You and every single person at LA Fitness who only has one type of person to compare me to. Yes.
But I do think it's worth taking the look and seeing, okay, here are the tough stretches. Here's where, people want to see, hey, when do I get to see Marcus Smart? When do I get to see Grant Williams? When do I get to boo Grant Williams or Marcus Smart? Whatever it is. And there are
do I get to boo Ime Udoka.
Also that. But there's really what they're looking for is the boo Kyrie Irving.
Right.
But the stretches where you can say, all right, here we are. I know I can expect this stretch to be, if the Celtics don't make the best of this stretch, then you start to worry about what's coming up. And who knows what the hell is going to happen. But I'm also one of the participants in predicting every game before the season even starts. So stupid things like this are part of my wheelhouse, man. Okay, so let's just get into it. The tough stretches. We were talking about it before. There are 4 road trips that are especially difficult, and then there's the month of March. There's a 4-game road trip in November, Philly, Toronto, Memphis, Charlotte. There's a 4-game trip in December, Golden State, Sacramento, LA. That includes the Christmas Day game against the Lakers. A 5-gamer in March, Cleveland, Denver, Phoenix, Portland, Utah. Portland, Utah is a back-to-back. That's the monster killer. It's one of the worst back-to-backs you can ever find. That Portland to Utah on back-to-back nights is just sneaky. There's a time zone change. It blows. And then a 6-game trip, Detroit, Chicago, Atlanta twice, New Orleans, and Charlotte, March into April 1st. So those are the 4 biggest, toughest road trips. Is there one in particular here that you're like, ugh, this could be a rough one? Is there anyone here that's like that particularly worries you, or is this just a matter of these are long road trips and you're just gonna have to deal with these?
I mean, I think the most interesting one to me from that perspective is just the March April thing, just because of like the proximity of all the games, right?
Yeah.
Because like that is like not only are there 2 big road trips, like they are like a week apart. That's kind of crazy. I
Yeah.
can't like I mean, everybody gets mad when we talk about feeling bad for the beat writers, but like, good lord,
That
that is a lot of travel, man.
is a lot of travel. That is a lot of
A lot
travel.
of travel, like, and it's funny because those are not the toughest road trips from like the perspective of talent, right? Like, I mean, the first one is like, so the first one has Denver and Cleveland on it, and Phoenix. I mean, that's a heck of a stretch right there, right? Like those 3 right in a row. And then like Portland, Utah, like Detroit, Atlanta, New Orleans, yeah. I mean I just said the Bobcats. It is officially August. Um,
I do
Charlotte,
that every once in a while too. Charlotte. I
but
think because
like
Michael Jordan sold his steak, maybe he sold the steak that named them the Hornets. Maybe they just go back to being the Bobcats.
it's bringing back Adam Morrison, the whole thing. It's gonna be great.
Yes. Oh my god.
But like those 2 stretches right in a row, I mean, like, that's rough, man. Like that's a lot of travel, and it's an interesting time of the season to have that because like that's when you're starting to round into shape for the playoffs.
Post
That's when
All-Star.
Post All-Star. That's when, like, if you're in a race for, second seed, first seed in the East, those are going to be, yeah, I mean, like every game's important for those things, but
Sure,
those are
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be games that you really feel it. Those are going to be times when you really feel it. And I mean, like, this is like a small thing, but you look at some of those, it's like, okay, so they get Portland, and like Portland should be a win on the road, right? But Portland's at the end of a fairly lengthy road trip. You get Charlotte, that should be a win, right? But Charlotte is at the end of a fairly lengthy road trip. Like those things matter quite a bit in the NBA. Curious to see how those 2 stretches go, because to me, that's the toughest part, where it's just like, dude, these guys are gonna like really miss their own bed by the time that Charlotte game rolls around.
Yeah. Now they're going to be a
And
little
there's
more.
one more away game sandwiched in there. Like there's just like a random Wizards game like plopped in the middle of that.
Well, so March is going to be their worst month. 5 home games, 11 road games. If you want to just eke into April 1st, that's that Charlotte game. So that's basically a 12th road game in that same stretch. So just because the calendar changes, 5-game road trip at the beginning of March, 6-game road trip at the end into April 1st. So of the 12 road games, if you just extend it out to that one extra day, 11 are on these 2 separate trips. So I don't know if that's good or bad to just get them out of the way. It is weird to have those 2 kind of just. March is a bear. March is an absolute bear of a schedule where you come in and you get a couple of games at home, but your 2 games at home are Dallas and Golden State.
Yeah.
And then you hit the road. You have Cleveland, Denver, Phoenix, Portland every other day. Then the back-to-back against Utah. You're like, oh, good. Thank God we can come home. That first game home after a long road trip is always a tough one. Oh, hopefully it's it's the Phoenix Suns who are there.
It's one day after the Jazz game.
Right.
Like, a lot of times after those road trips, the schedule makers will give you a couple days. Like, nope,
not this one.
Nope.
Like one day off and you get the Suns. So, all right.
Sharpie that one in as a loss.
That
is an L.
Just stamp it right there.
Yeah.
And then in the Utah game as well, possibly, depending on how bad Utah ends up being. But that is that again. That Portland,
and they were frisky.
Utah, they're gonna be good. They're gonna be good enough. They're gonna be tough, right?
Yep.
Good coach. They're gonna be tough. We know it. But Portland to Utah, it's not the shortest flight in the world. It's not the worst, but it's not short.
It's just not easy to get to Utah.
It's not even. Yeah, it's altitude. You lose an hour. So it's a 10:30 Eastern start against Portland. It's a 9 o'clock Eastern start against Utah because you've switched that. So you any little bit, it just adds up. Then you have that one day off, come back Phoenix, and then you hit the road. You got Washington, Detroit on a road home back-to-back. You got to play the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you head out onto a 6-game road trip that starts with a back-to-back Detroit-Chicago. Okay, Detroit-Chicago is not that bad, but damn, like after all of that, you're like, back-to-back now? Weary legs. Luckily, they have some time off. They have a day off. They play Atlanta, 2 days off. They stay in Atlanta.
Yeah, that's
another day off. They go to New Orleans. That's not so bad. And then Charlotte. So it's not the competition that month. Well, the competition is tough that month, but
not bad. Yep.
Yeah. The end, that last road trip, it's not the competition. Detroit, Chicago. We'll see what Atlanta is. New Orleans, we'll see what they are. They could be good. Charlotte, it's not going to be great. So it's kind of not the worst competition, but at the end of that month, with all of the miles, that has the potential to be messy. And it's hard to win 2 games in a row in the same city. So
yeah,
March has the potential to be tough. We'll continue this conversation here in just a second. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. If you're going to be throwing down some money, we're already telling you, look ahead to that Phoenix game. Look ahead to one of those Atlanta games. You're going to have some potentially schedule losses there. So when you open up that FanDuel app, you have something to work on. Meanwhile, it's football season, preseason games all over the place, and FanDuel's giving you a chance to win all season long, because if you pick a team to win the Super Bowl, you will get bonus bets every time that team wins in the regular season. So make it a good one. Pick a team to win the Super Bowl. Every time they win, you get bonus bets. Then you could turn around and throw those bonus bets on simple spreads, player props, who's going to throw the most touchdowns, who's going to kick the most field, anything, over-unders, more. Go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel.com/locked-on. Very important. That's how you get this deal to start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. If you're gambling, go for it. That's on you. But if you're going to do it, I just ask you, please gamble responsibly. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Here for you Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Back to the Mailbag Monday. Since I was off last week, I did 3 mailbags. I didn't think I needed to do one this week. Mailbag Monday next week. Again, johnkaralis.com/mailbag to get in on that. So here for you Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But here for you now with Tom Westerholm to continue discussing this schedule and the toughest thing. We were just talking about that March. The good thing I will say, you said before, this is going to be tough. You come out of the All-Star break. This is a chance to lose ground. They do come home with a chance to make up ground with 7 out of 8 games. 6 out of 7 games at home to end the season, including they go on the road once to Milwaukee. If that Milwaukee game is rough in that March schedule, they have a chance to make up for it in April. If they're back in that spot where they're tight and they're trying to make up some seeding ground, home games to end the season: OKC, Sacramento, Portland, that road game in Milwaukee, back home to New York, Charlotte, Washington. Depending on how things go, that could be at least 2 teams that have nothing to play for, maybe 3. I don't know how the Knicks are going to be, but probably just 2. But it's still potentially a chance to make up some ground. So that March, April, it's like at least they finish the season at home with a long stretch at home, and they can rest up and head into the playoffs after that brutal March.
Yeah, I mean that's something for sure. And I mean, look, you got our good friends, the Bobcats, in that stretch. You got Portland. Let's just
call them by their original names: the Bobcats, the Sonics, the Kansas City Kings. You
got the Bullets to end the season. It's gonna be good stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you got some winnable games in there for sure. I mean, and I think, look, like there's some other stuff too, like earlier in the year, I think, there's on their big West Coast trip. I think one thing that's going to be really nice for them is that they get to go Sacramento on December 20. And yeah, it sucks, for them that they're going to be on the road, on Christmas. But you look at that, it's like Sacramento on the 20th, 2 days off. Then you got an LA game followed by another LA game. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot of time you get to spend in LA. Like that's like,
Yeah.
like because they're going straight there after the Kings game. They'll spend a bunch of days there. They'll, like that'll be a good chance to kind of relax a little bit, I'm sure, and to
They're waking up that Thursday in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
They're not traveling
yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah.
So stuff like that I think helps, and I mean, there's like pretty fair amount of home games in January, and there's mitigating circumstances.
Sure,
Certainly.
yeah.
That's just how schedules work. I don't know if you're aware of this, Karalis, but there will be 41 home games too. So all those road games, there's 41 of them, but then there's also going to be games in February and January and December. So probably November too. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. I got to write this down because there's a bunch of stuff I'm just finding out for the first time. Yeah. I mean, obviously, what you want to see is a little bit more spread out. That month of March, every team faces this, right? Every team faces that one crappy month where it's like, oh God, this is going to be tough. But it's important to note that the Celtics face that tough month. You come out of the All-Star break. Is it good that you come out of the All-Star break? Guys are rested. You get that one tough month. Let's just go down. Let's power through it. Hey, sometimes you can say the road trips are galvanizing. Who knows if they're going to need to like come together at all at that point? But it is going to be a tough month one way or the other. They are going to have an opportunity here, and the lesson is you got to win these games early. Like you got to come out of the gate strong. They have. It's not too tough a schedule, I think, at the beginning. They have 14 back-to-backs, but they're not a lot of tough back-to-backs. The first one here is Brooklyn, Toronto at home. Memphis, Charlotte is not too bad. 2 road games. That's not too bad. You got my favorite stretch of the schedule after the in-season tournament, which it's weird to see that week in-season tournament knockout rounds is just, we don't know exactly what we're doing, but here are some possibilities, which the Celtics seem to have probably the easiest path in that in-season tournament. But then after that, they come home. They have 4 home games against 2 teams. Cleveland, day off. Cleveland, Orlando, back-to-back, day off. Orlando again, which is a fun schedule against 2 of the longer teams. There's going to be a whole lot of height.
Yeah.
You get between Porzingis and you got to put Luke Cornett out there. You got to match that size. You could have like 30 feet of centers combined between the 2 teams on the floor at the same time. It's just really a lot of length in that stretch.
And Mo Bamba doesn't even play for them anymore. There's a lot.
Maybe you can sign it. It's too early for a 10-day. Maybe 2. I don't know, something. But anyway, the back-to-backs aren't all that tough. They have 14, which is not the most in the league. It's a little lower. They only 4 of the 14 have home road. And only a couple are that tough, that the worst one obviously is that Portland, Utah one. But I don't see very many others that are, I look at it and be like, oh, that's a brutal one.
Yeah. For 5 home and home ones, like that's nice.
Yeah.
You get some. Yeah. No, I mean, their back-to-backs really aren't too bad. I think NBA.com noted that it's up from 13 last season. So 1 more. I mean,
yeah, not a big deal.
Not a big deal. I think when you start looking at like, to me, when you start looking at like the tough parts of the schedule, right? Like those, the big thing is like, okay, did they stock enough depth this offseason to make sure that, somebody with plantar fasciitis is not, going to hurt himself.
For example, hypothetically speaking,
somebody who hypothetically happens to be 49 years old and, you're going to need him real bad for the playoffs. Like maybe a guy like that.
No, I just turned 50, but I see where you're going with this.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's right. You turned 50. I was there. like maybe somebody who has had some injury issues ever since he was drafted. Like, guys like are they going to be able to keep guys healthy enough to rest guys to keep guys healthy, right? Like that, like to me, like that's what some of these big tough stretches are really going to test.
Yeah.
It's like, I think do the Celtics have enough talent and everything to like survive these stretches? Of course they do. Every team has tough stretches. The question to me is like, okay, you're a month before the playoffs, you're in March, and you've got all these guys who you have to keep healthy. Like your whole season experiment that you've tried this offseason rests on keeping those guys healthy. Can you do that over these hard stretches? Can you do that when there's, games tied together, when there's travel, when you don't have your own facilities to keep your guys healthy? And can you do that at a time where it's really crucial that somebody isn't going to miss 2 months of the season? That's the big thing to me.
And also, like, this is the ramp up period. So you're going to see guys play more minutes, like Tatum and Brown. Start playing more minutes, but that means they're going to need some off days here and there, because you're starting to get into playoff cadence as far as, so not only are you ramping up to get the body ready for 40+ minute games, but you are going to need to get the body ready for play, day off. So there's going to be a stretch here in March and April where, hey, Detroit, Chicago, or Washington, Detroit, maybe it's not just Al Horford who sits in the back-to-back. Maybe there's, okay, this is the Jaylen Brown day off. Detroit's the Jayson Tatum day off. And it just, anytime you sit multiple guys, now that becomes the equalizer, because, and who knows, Detroit could be, there's always a possibility that their young talent could be better.
Absolutely.
And, there are so many variables with these young. If they can gel, then, hey, they could be better. They could be better than advertised. Detroit has played with many of these players has played Boston tough in the past. So Chicago played Boston tough in the past. Absolutely. Atlanta has, New Orleans have Zion. Like there's a lot here where
let's not listen. I understand that we're desperate for content. Let's not start respecting the Hawks. We're not going to do that, are we?
Oh, well, I thought maybe just for August when nobody's listening, we can just drop in a hint of respect, and then I can rescind it. I can rescind it in September.
All right.
later. Hey, let's get some reunion games. I kind of went out of order with my bullet points that you see on the YouTube page. Reunion games. The Celtics have reunion games. A coach, 2 players, and an outcast, a pariah. So Marcus Smart at Memphis. The first meeting is on the road at Memphis, November 19th. So that's going to be an interesting day. But he does not come back to Boston until February 4th. So it's going to be a long kind of road there. Ime Udoka comes to Boston January 13th. Then the Celtics go back like a week later. Grant Williams, Kyrie Irving will be their first meetings in Dallas. And then they come to Boston on March 1st. So you're going to have to wait to get a lot of that vitriol out. I don't know what the Udoka reception is going to be.
That's going to be a weird one.
It's going to be a weird one, right? Because
you and I have our opinion of what it should be. Like,
I don't feel like it should be pleasant.
No.
I feel like if there's a rousing kind of, if they say in the head coach Ime Udoka and there's like a big like standing ovation, I think that's going to be like if I were Joe Mazzulla, I'd be like, I'm right here,
I mean, we've talked about this. If I'm a Celtics fan, like I think Ime Udoka may have done more to cost the Celtics a title than certain other guys who get booed whenever they come to Boston. Like that. I mean, we've talked about it a million times. That hurt them very badly last year, and it was very avoidable. Like just
very, very avoidable.
Like
the poor choice Hall of Fame right there for Ime Udoka.
Like if you're gonna dole out some vitriol, if you're a Celtics fan, I think that's one where like, yeah, there should probably be some boos that day.
Yeah. Well, yes, I agree there. There will be boos on March 1st when Grant Williams comes in and like there's no reason to boo Grant Williams. It's not, And there's no reason to like go crazy and applaud Grant Williams. It's just like,
No,
hey, and Grant Williams, probably starting, but like they should, I hope they announce him first. Like, I think the Celtics have a good sense,
they do.
Of that.
They're so good at that stuff, man. We get like, sometimes we get on the Celtics, right? But like, honestly, their like ability to kind of suss out like, okay, when to kind of chill on a guy and when to kind of make a big deal out of a guy. And then when they do make like a tribute video, I mean, they're really, really good at all that stuff.
They are. So I would expect Grant Williams to be announced first.
Yeah, I think
or something, so he can get his little ovation, and then Kyrie Irving to be like, you don't want to have Kyrie Irving announced ahead of Grant Williams and have like then the boos, like, because he's not big enough to change the boos to cheers. The boos will just keep on going.
Turning that car around. Like,
no, he's not. He's not. He's getting run over by it. Grant
doesn't deserve that.
No, he does not.
He deserves a nice little pop, and then
he deserves. It's better than a golf clap, I think, but it's not quite standing ovation. I think a noticeable, respectful applause. I
think if you're already standing up, right, because it's before the game, then it makes sense, like
yeah. That's nice.
That's reasonable.
Now, when Marcus Smart gets introduced, I think Marcus Smart gets introduced last.
Yes,
because I think for us here, we're so knee deep in the commenters. As soon as I mention Marcus Smart, people already start commenting, I'm glad he's gone, blah, 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 whatever. Then that's fine. That's your opinion. People on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it is they have their opinions. Fine. But I think the general kind of more healthy fan, the one that's not scrolling through social media all the time and just likes basketball, is a little bit more casual and gets to go to a few games and doesn't catch every game on TV. They like Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart has generally been very popular outside of the little echo chambers in which we exist, which is weird, right?
Well, it's like there's a casual, and then there's like a level of like a lot of people who pay like, maybe a little bit more attention, and then like a level above that. And I feel like he's very popular in this one, but not this one.
Yeah. There's like a tier below. There's like one little slice. There's below the crust, and then you get to the middle. It's like the layer of cheese, and they just don't like that Havarti cheese that's on there, and they just boo it. They want to pick it off, and they hate it, but they like every other part of the sandwich. I wish he was just straight American cheese. I don't know. Maybe I'm hungry. I need dinner. God, what's wrong with my brain? But
what happens when Analogy Man gets skipped?
Seriously, God, August Analogy Man, still a little bit of Bahama brain going on in here. But I think when Smart comes back, I think the general paying fan, they are going to be very happy to cheer Marcus Smart. I think the Marcus Smart introduction is going to be loud, rousing. It's going to take a minute. And I think the tribute video is going to be a good one, a big standing ovation for him there. And like that's going to be interesting. I think teams should be like weaponizing tribute videos a little bit. Like, hit him with that emotion at like a key part of the game where he's going to be like a little overcome by it, and then like, hey, maybe you can get him to turn the ball over a couple of times.
Maybe you can get by him.
Maybe you can buy. Yeah, that's right. I'm really looking forward to the Marcus Smart return because he's going to get to guard, Tatum and Brown, and like that is going to be something. He's going to be talking. There's going to be a lot of talking, and he's going to be talking to the bench, and he's going to know exactly where Brad Stevens is sitting up in the luxury boxes. He's going to be pointing up there. He wants that game more than anything. Though I am very much looking forward to Sunday, February 14th, February 4th for that.
I was going to say, big Valentine's Day plans, huh?
Big Valentine's. I'm also looking forward to Valentine's Day. Sure. It sucks that he's the first reunion is going to be on the road.
Yeah, that I feel like that happens a weird amount, like that you kind of get that. But yeah, that is a that is. I mean, because it is funny, right? Because like you do look forward to those games, and it's not just for like the fan pop with this one, right? It's like this is also like you said, this is gonna be a very competitive game, so we're gonna get our first taste of that, but it's not gonna be in Boston. That's a little bit of a shame.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up here with a little bit of a positive spin from the website Positive Residual. It's a new site that I've just seen for the first time, but they're doing an NBA schedule analysis, and this is just to end it on a positive note. There are 16 games. The Celtics have the most rest advantage games in the NBA with 16, which means there are 16 games on the schedule where they have more rest than the other team. They also have 11 where they are at a disadvantage. So it goes both ways, but they are +5 in how many games they are at rest advantage, which is tied with Minnesota and Portland for the most in the NBA. So when it comes to rest, games where the Celtics have more rest than other teams, they have the most and more than the disadvantage. So there are 5 games there where the Celtics should be able to pick up wins where they have a little extra rest, a little extra juice, can take advantage of some tired legs. Not much of a response necessary. Not just a little ending on a positive note. That's all. A little positive spin to finish this riveting schedule release.
A little positive twirl.
A little positive twirl. I would have launched into a twirl if it wouldn't have completely ripped my entire setup here, which might have been good video, but terrible podcasting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But that's it. Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate you, man.
I know. Well, look, we got through it.
We got through it. I was on my best behavior. We got through it.
It really was. Which means now, after I wrap up this video, I will bring Tom back on, and you won't hear him say all the crazy things that he wanted to say on the podcast, which we should release as a special bonus podcast. Maybe I should do subscribers. A subscriber only pay us money to hear the crazy rantings post podcast. Because let me tell you something. There have been some. So there is something to pay for there. Maybe someday. And also maybe not, because we want to keep our jobs. So thank you for listening. Thank you for popping this on a Friday. It's a Friday for everybody who's listening for the most part. Thursday night for some of you who are going to be listening right away. But this is the Friday podcast. Thank you. We're going to be Monday through Friday again very, very soon at the end of next month, basically a month from now. And as I said, when I look at the schedule, when the Celtics have these Friday night games, like I'm going right back to November. So that first week in November, I'm giving you a podcast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Oh, they play Friday night against Brooklyn? Podcast. Saturday night against Toronto? Podcast. So you're getting multiple podcasts all week long. So sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 6. Who knows? Maybe 7 sometimes. We're just going to go nuts. Plenty of podcasts. More podcasts than you're going to get anywhere else. So subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you are on the YouTube page. And if you are a regular, everyday listener, everyday viewer, and everydayer, love you. I would love it if you shared the podcast, spread the word, tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody. They should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.